Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Sales Entrepreneur Podcast. I am Daniel McComber, and with me today is Drew Reilly. Good to have you here, man.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Glad to be here. Honored.
Well, honestly, we kind of connected through Jimmy Rex's program, We're the They, right?
Yes.
And you joined that. You were the first group.
Yeah.
Did you kind of know what you were getting yourself into with that?
I had an idea, but not fully, no.
No? Okay. Well, I mean, you are a successful real estate investor. And then you kind of started, like most people did, just hustling and grinding in sales, right?
Yeah.
And so kind of take us through, well, actually, before that, you started playing ball, college ball at which college was it again?
I started at Colorado State my freshman year, and then I transferred to Brigham Young.
Oh, okay. So you played at BYU.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Kind of take us through that. I mean, did you grow up playing, or did you just kind of like walk on? Or
I grew up playing, man. I come from a super athletic family. Dad played college basketball. Mom was a good athlete. Oldest brother is, a phenomenal athlete. He was like San Diego Athlete of the Year.
Oh, wow.
Scholarship to play basketball. Played a little bit of football too. Next oldest brother played in the NFL. Younger brother played college ball. Sister track. It was just very, very athletic household. So it kind of clicked for me when I was probably in 4th or 5th grade. Just started loving football and had a good, junior, senior year. Won a championship in San Diego. And so, I was lucky enough to get a scholarship, and I went on a mission after high school, came back, played a lot actually my freshman year when I was at CSU. Transferred. I had to redshirt, and then I didn't have a great career at BYU. I was hurt a bunch, and played behind some great players, but a couple knee injuries, a couple shoulder ones, and I had a great experience, but it was just in hindsight, I probably should have stayed at CSU playing ball. I met my wife, and I love living in Utah. But either way, it was a great experience.
It's like for the football aspect of it, maybe should have stayed back there. But for all the other reasons, it was good moving to Utah.
I'm still dealing with it, man. I can't I got a bum shoulder, torn labrum. It's like, you pay the price for life, man.
Oh, absolutely. I played lacrosse at UVU.
You get it.
And I was thinking I was going to transfer to BYU. Because I was going to go to school there. And then at the same time, I got married. And I was like, I don't think I like this idea of being a married student athlete while also trying to get a degree.
Sure.
And I was like, that's too much. Well, as you're kind of getting hurt, what kind of thoughts were going through your mind? I mean, you're getting hurt. You don't know if you're going to continue with football. Did you have like a really set degree plan and what you wanted to do?
Yeah. I mean, I always liked business. Even when I was in high school, I was always just hustling stuff. I was selling stuff on eBay. I was like flipping iPhones when they came out. I was flipping cars. Like when I was in high school, I was just making money. And then after high school, before I went on a mission, I started really just doing some hustles. I was flipping cell phones. I was buying, 50 of them at a time and selling them to people overseas. And I probably made my first $100,000 when I was like 18.
No kidding. I'm just self-taught, or did you have someone that kind of showed you the ropes?
No, just kind of just buy low, sell high type of stuff. It just, so that stuff kind of always just clicked for me. I always just kind of had a knack for just, seeing deals and seeing value and stuff. So went to BYU, got into entrepreneurship in the program there. And
no kidding. Yeah, me too. I actually graduated from there, the entrepreneurial management program. BYU.
Yeah. I didn't actually graduate. I'm 2 classes short, but
no kidding.
Well, when I transferred, my chemistry and biology didn't transfer. So technically I'm short those 2 classes, but everything on the business side. But, when you play ball, like in college, you really it's crazy because the NFL draft's going on. Like the difference between guys that get drafted and play and there's thousands of college football players, and there's, 7 rounds of 30 teams. You really kind of realize okay, I didn't have the physical capabilities to compete in that.
Yeah.
Could I have done it? Yes. But just, I didn't get the cards. My older brother did. He was 6'5", 260, played for the Utes, got drafted by the Jets. He just had it.
Yeah.
So even when I was playing, and I started to get hurt, you just kind of realize all right, I I got to figure something out here because, having a huge career in the NFL, like that's probably not, those aren't
Right.
my cards,
Well, so many guys, they have the ambition of going to the NFL and they don't realize, hey, even if you make it
Oh,
and
for
you're
sure.
there for 1 year and then you get cut,
Yeah.
I mean, cool, you accomplish your goal of going to the NFL, but what now?
Yeah.
And so many guys they ask themselves that question, what now? And so I guess you probably were asking yourself that question when you're getting hurt, and what opportunities were you looking for? Or were you going to do something like kind of create your own way like you did in high school? Or?
So I just started learning about real estate. My older brother bought a house, and I didn't come from a real estate family. I had some uncles that were real estate guys, and they made a lot of money. And growing up, we lived a really good life. My grandpa ran a business. My dad worked there. Uncle ran a business. We were really blessed family, very, I would say, middle class.
Okay.
But then we had another family that was in the real estate business, and you could just kind of tell, like, okay, these guys are living a little different.
Yeah.
But growing up, my dad didn't flip homes, he didn't build homes. So when I'm in college, I just started learning about real estate. I took some courses at BYU. I did real estate finance. You start learning about cap rates, start learning about pro formas. And when I got married, I think my junior year.
Yeah.
And, I got married, and a month later I bought my first house. I bought a duplex in Provo.
No kidding. Really?
Yeah, we rented, we lived in the basement, rented upstairs, got it on an FHA loan.
FHA. So it's so funny you say that. A lot of our stories is pretty similar. That was the same thing. My wife and I got married, went out and did a summer for summer sales, came home. I magically convinced her. I was like, hey, instead of buying a house like we're gonna live in and make our own, we're gonna buy this duplex.
Sweet.
And it was a side-by-side duplex. And there wasn't that many of those in Provo. I just got kind of lucky. And I shouldn't say lucky. It took quite a long time of working through it, but we get it, and one side was renovated and the other side wasn't. And so literally since 1970, it wasn't renovated.
Dang. Wow.
So we moved into the non-renovated side because I told them, like, hey, we can get more rent on the other side.
That's funny. Same deal, bro.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And so we put some tenants on the other side. They're living in this nice renovated place, and they're super happy. And we're in this dump. Like literally when we moved in, we had to paint the entire walls because there was Sharpie all over them. The previous tenants had 4 kids in this tiny little place. And you learn pretty quickly what kind of relationship you have with your wife.
Oh, for sure.
As you are renovating the house together. For sure. So I guess, how was that process moving in? I mean, did you have to convince her of that dream of having a duplex kind of thing, or was she all for it?
She was cool. I mean, she she's on board, man. She was ambitious. And it's funny because when we were dating, like playing football, you only get usually like a month in the off season.
Oh,
and so, I had a scholarship check, but by the time you pay for a car and housing and like, you're basically broke. Right. So we were dating, and I was like, hey, I can go work with my brother and do some sales for a month. They were hustling security.
Oh, yeah.
And he'll pay me up front, pay me under his deal. And like, I could make some cash. And then I kind of had this joke with her when we were dating, like, hey, if I go and work and make this money, would you rather like have a nice wedding ring, or would you rather we like buy a home? Because I can get the house we got was like $205,000. So I needed like $7,000 to buy it. Right. Now I had no credit at the time. I had credit, but I didn't have any proof of income. So I needed a co-signer, which was a whole nother story. Yeah. But, she was like, well, tell me about it. So I just kind of educated her on like, hey, and this was before we got married. Like, wow, hey, we can really make some money in real estate. Like if we go and buy this home, the same thing. We lived in the basement. There was no heat, low ceilings. It was really a dump. Rented the upstairs because it was 3 bedrooms to single guys. And she was like, yeah, let's do it. And then we talked even more, 5-year plan, 10-year plan. And so
you're doing that while you're dating?
While we're dating. Yeah.
Wow.
It was cool.
And so luckily, I guess her reaction was probably what helped solidify if this was someone you're going to keep dating.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I was like really kind of not testing her, but I was going to
say, was it a test, that question with the ring or the duplex?
It wasn't really a test, but I was like, hey, which one do you want? And she was like, yeah, let's get a house. Luckily, I went out and I had a decent like couple weeks, and I think I made like 10 or 12 grand. And nice. I did get her a wedding ring. It wasn't anything crazy, but I, surprised her with a wedding ring.
Yeah. And
I was like, hey, and we're actually buying this home. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. That's amazing. So, when did you guys get married? How soon after? Because did you buy the house before you guys were
No,
married?
we got married and like a week later moved in. So,
No
you know,
kidding.
we closed a week later. It was pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you guys do any like renovations and stuff?
We did. Yeah.
Yeah.
We did some stuff. We, you know, upstairs painted new floors, you know, fans. You know, we got money out of it, which was sweet. And sorry, my phone's dinging here. And I guess what was interesting is that home that we bought for like 205 grand, I think.
Yeah.
And I think when we bought it, it appraised for like 220.
Mm.
And so immediately I'm like, oh, I mean, essentially we just made, you know, $20,000.
Yeah.
The payment I think was like 1,200.
Yeah, you're starting to see.
And then the rent we were getting upstairs was like 1,500. So I'm looking at it going, okay, if we went and rented an apartment, it cost us $1,900.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not paying $900, and then these people are actually paying rent, covering the debt, and I'm making a couple $100. So essentially, it's almost like I'm netting $1,100.
Yeah.
So I give you $7 to get this thing. I'm making or saving $1,100 a month.
Yeah.
So in 7 months, I'm breaking even, and it's worth 20 more than I got it. I'm like, I'm doing the math and I'm like, this is almost like too good to be true, you know?
Yeah. It's like you learn about it, but then once you kind of finally see it in the real world, you're like, this actually does happen. This is insane.
The funny part about that too was like before I got it, I remember, you know, just going up to some of my professors, like my business professors. And this was before like Instagram was famous and VRR and all these people talking about this. I remember walking up to one of my professors and I was like, hey, I'm about to get married. I want to like buy this duplex. Like, do you think it's a good idea? And it's so funny because he was like, hey, you know, I don't know, man. Real estate's kind of risky. I would think about it. And I'm like, I don't understand what's risky about this. Like, I buy the thing for $7,000. I get all my money back in 7 months.
Yeah.
Like
the maths.
It's worth more than I buy it. It's a fixed rate at 3.5%. Like,
yeah.
How are you not telling me to like do this? It was kind of crazy.
That's the hardest thing with professors, man, is they have so much knowledge, but then you got to look at their lives and like, how much of this is like,
I know,
like really being applied in your life, and also like, that's what always was kind of tough for I think most guys who do sales and then they go to school is being humble enough to be like, oh yeah, like my professors know things that I don't know, but at the same time, like I make more money than my professor, or you know, I know more about like real estate and money aspects. So definitely an interesting kind of dynamic with those. Well, your relationship with your wife is really interesting because I mean, and I guess I can relate because I convinced my wife that, you know, buying the duplex is a great idea instead of like nesting. My wife is from Eastern Europe, and so she grew up in like super, super humble lifestyle with 7 siblings. Dang. Crazy situation. So I was happy, like she was happy with the fact that we even owned something together.
Wow,
which was amazing. But at the same time, I don't know if I was super great at like kind of expressing to her what she was signing up for.
Yeah.
While we were dating, I told her, I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this summer sales thing. And actually when I was deciding if I should propose or not, the summer was coming up. I'm like, I either propose now after only dating for 6 months and we get married before the summer, or I wait till after the summer and then propose and get married. And to me, I was like, there's no way I could make it up through a whole summer without doing something stupid. Or I thought maybe she would probably just find somebody else that's better or whatever. So again, like we got married and then almost immediately went out for the summer. And then when we got home from the summer, we got our duplex. So I guess you guys got married, you got the duplex. When did you kind of transition fully into the sales? I mean, you went out for that small trip.
I mean, that was my junior year. And then, so probably like 2 years later, like I was done playing and, you know, I was like, I think I did one other deal before I graduated, but essentially I like decided like, okay, like I want to buy some real estate. Like I see the future in this. Like I trust myself. I coming from California, like, you know, it's funny when I left on my mission in 2008, I remember like leaving Valley Center, California and seeing like homes for sale for like 800,000.
Yeah.
And then I get to Utah and homes are like 200,000. And so to me, it just like, I'm like, everything here is on sale. And so and it's a lot of people that are here are like, oh, the market's kind of high or low. And I'm just like, well, relative to where I came from, this stuff is cheap.
Yeah.
So I just decided, like, you know what, I want to do this. I think I like the market. I'm pretty good at due diligence. I'm very good at pro formas. The math just makes sense to me, how I can buy some assets, create some cash flow, create some appreciation, create some wealth. But obviously, like, I need some cash. And so getting into sales for me was just a method to make some capital. And it was strictly like, that's the motive. I need to go earn some money with the intention to, buy some assets. And my wife and I had a great conversation a couple times where we really sat down and we're like, okay, like, this is the plan. We're going to go out, we're going to press the gas, we're going to earn some income. But when we get that income, like, what a lot of your friends and what a lot of people do is if they go get 100 or a couple 100,000 in their mind, they have this checklist of like, okay, this money can buy me a car, get me a vacation, get me a bag. You just basically pre-assign the cash.
Yeah.
And we had this agreement where it's like, hey, we're going to go and get this money. We're going to take the money and we're not going to go and just, spend it. We're going to invest it. We're going to buy assets. Those assets are going to produce cash flow. And then we're going to live our life off the cash flow. Because what's cool is you can spend all of it because the next month is coming right back.
It's coming right back.
And, I was like, hey, if we can do this for, 10 years and really press, we're going to have these assets, this cash flow. And I think it's going to set us up for the rest of our life. And she was like, yeah, let's do it. I'm on board.
That's so cool. Well, I mean, it's crazy because a lot of guys start sales going through college or, as a way like, oh, I don't know exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
You kind of reverse engineered it.
Yes.
You're like, I know I want to do real estate and I'm going to use sales to do that. So I guess you kind of finished football, you finished college and you said, well, real estate's the goal. You need money to do it. I'm going to go out and I'm going to get money to do it. And so sales was just like, I guess you said your brother was doing sales. And so that was kind of what helped
my oldest brother. He got in.
that?
Yes. My oldest brother, he, same thing in college, out of college, he started selling security, got over to Vivint. So he got me in touch with all those guys. I was working with him. And then eventually he stopped and left and created a company. But he was really my introduction to it.
Nice. Awesome. And it's funny too, because I also was with Vivint for 7 years or something like that. We were there together, I guess, at the same time. And same thing, means to an end. How many guys start doing Vivint saying, I'm going to do Vivint forever? Or I'm going to do sales, I should say, forever. Very few, right? Most people are like, hey, I'm going to use this as a tool to accomplish something else.
Yes.
And so I guess you kind of get going. Fast forward a little bit, your first couple of years, sounds like you and your wife had really good communication on what the goals were, what was going to happen. How those first couple of years go? Were you buying properties left and right? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we were. I think, my plan was always like, every year, get some cash, buy an asset, right? Move into it, put the 5% down. And then anything extra, those are tough checks, pay the 20%, pay the 25%. So, we were trying to pick up 2 to 3 doors personally a year. And then on the outside of that, my brother was in the NFL. He was making some money. My other brother was making some money. And so I brought them a couple deals where I'm like, hey, this is a 7-plex in Provo, right? We went and did that together.
Wow.
We did a big ranch up in Heber City together. We did another duplex together. So, I was doing stuff myself with me and my wife. And then I also brought my brothers in. And basically, my goal was essentially by the time the summer came to be at 0. So I could get hungry, work through the summer. And then when the summer would start, I also, I started doing some new construction deals where I had deposits on builds that were going to be completed in September, October.
Wow.
So I'd start the summer broke, and then I would already know, like, hey, come September, October, like, I'm going to have to cut a, $150,000 check here for some to actually close on these.
Yeah.
And so I need to freaking work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to grind.
Yeah.
Man. No, it's funny because my wife and I had it pretty similar where we're just like, we got the duplex, and then after that, I was like, well, we can keep doing this. And so went out for another summer, came home, like, let's find another one. And so we didn't find a duplex, but we found a single family. I'm like, this is just like making sense. But at the same time, after our third one, where I was kind of like, man, like I do love being hungry, but at the same time, like going like saving up just enough and then investing it right away. I guess in hindsight, it was the best thing I could have done
Sure.
because for the real estate market at that time, because this was like between 2017 to 2018 or
Oh, that's great.
2019.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably
So
doubled.
yeah, I already sold the
Oh
duplex.
shoot, yeah.
Yeah. When in 2021, when that duplex doubled and a half in value, I did the math. I'm like, well, I'm not keeping that.
Sure.
Let's
Yeah.
get rid of that one and roll it in. And that's actually how I met Jimmy, is through like the real estate stuff. And me and him were doing Airbnbs and things like
Nice.
that. But ultimately, my wife, it was funny because she was on board and everything was going great. We'd go out, we'd hustle, come home. And I just don't know. I guess I didn't do a great enough job explaining, like, hey, pretty much all of that money that we just got is not going to stay in the account.
Yeah.
And so I would make sure that we go on a vacation. Like, we weren't living like poor per se, but at the same time, it was very interesting to her to see, like, yeah, we're going to invest, and it's a good thing that we're investing, but we're going to live very humbly after we invest. And that was something that after the second one, we had to sit back down again and have another chat. Like, okay, cool. Like, okay, maybe we won't invest everything this next year because we were thinking that we want to start have kids and so forth.
Yeah.
So we had to do a little bit of a checkup there. Did you and your wife ever have a little bit of a checkup, or did it get to a point where you guys had to kind of adjust things?
Yeah. I mean, we were like, we were just kind of all gas, man, like
Yeah.
just sprinting, just working and, investing a lot. And, when you start hustling like that, you start getting deals in the pipeline where it's like, okay, well, this is things started getting bigger and bigger and more,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, okay, I got this project I got to take down, and and I don't even have the money for it, right? So it's like I don't have the ability to save what I'm earning. I actually need more. Like I need to hit my brothers up again. I need I'm over extended here, right?
Yeah.
And it's good because it's cash flow stuff, so we can still live off the cash flow.
Yeah.
But when you're making that, like looking back, right? Like when you're making that plan, well, what you don't account for is like, okay, well, that's a great plan if you're single or if you're newly married, and like you can easily move or move a home every 10 years, or you can leave for the summer. But when you throw in children, it's like, okay, I wasn't factoring that. I don't know what that was like. When you factor in postpartum, we factor in postpartum depression, right? It's like, okay, now all of a sudden I'm leaving for 4 months in the summer, or I'm leaving for a week a month, right? To go and make money to go buy these assets. And it's like, well, yeah, but your wife is at home with 3 kids and she's depressed. Like she doesn't care about an extra $1,500 a month. Like she wants you to be home. Right. We didn't think about that. Right.
Yeah.
And, eventually, like, I think it gets to the point where when you have enough, right. And it's not that we're billionaires, but like when you have enough and all of a sudden there's a more pressing need, you realize like, okay, I would rather just be happy than go make some more money.
Yeah.
I would rather just my kids have their dad home, or, I would rather just have a little less anxiety because I'm not home alone by myself. Right. And you realize like, oh yeah, like that does make sense. Right.
Yeah.
Me going and working and grinding and pressing on the gas to go make an extra buck to then invest the buck. Like at some point it's like, if your wife isn't happy, it's not worth it. And if you we kind of had that realization where we were just going and going and going. And then we had children really fast. Right. And it's like, well, hey, this is the plan. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And it kind of caught up with us,
How many kids did you have within a time period?
I mean, we had 3 kids. My first daughter was born 2017. So then we had a son, her 2017, a son 2019. And then we had a daughter 15 months after that.
Okay. So, I mean, from 2017 to 2019, you have your first kid. You guys are still kind of grinding.
Yeah.
And she's pregnant. And so you're grinding. And so eventually it gets to the point where, I guess you just didn't see any alternative, right? You said, yeah, this is what we do. And this is what we've been doing. Did you guys ever come up with like a plan to like, okay, once we get this many units, we'll transition, or once we get to some kind of point, I'll slow down?
Yeah. I mean, I always kind of had the thought that like once your cash flow once your passive income exceeds the active income, right? I mean, that's kind of what I was always told. But, when you're making good money, especially like I had transitioned into solar,
Oh
So it's
yeah,
like,
tried.
when you're
Yeah.
making, that kind of money actively, it's like, man, I can't get my passive up that high. Right.
No,
And
not with
so
solar money.
the passive did get up really high, it got up to over, 6 figures a year, which was nice.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I've told this story a few times, but I was on a trip one time and, came home and I was like, hey, had a good trip, made, $10,000 or $15,000 or something.
Yeah.
Life is great, right? The market's booming.
Yeah.
We just made 20% in a quarter, right?
Yeah. What year
And
is this?
it was like 2020,
Okay.
2019,
Yeah.
right? 2020, I think. And
COVID year or after COVID?
yeah, after
Yeah.
COVID.
Okay.
And and I walked in the door. I was out selling in Houston all week, and my wife was just like, just like shook, right? And we ended up having this discussion, and she's like, I don't care about that anymore. And, and I was like, oh shoot. And for the first time I had this realization, like, man, if I keep doing this and I don't pivot or we don't make a change, like I will work myself out of my own family. Like I will, like, it's not going to work out. And I saw the writing on the wall for the first time. Like, we're not in a healthy situation.
Yeah.
And so the plan needs to change.
Yeah.
And it's got to change like quickly.
Yeah. I've heard, when I heard you say that story the first time, I resonated with it greatly because it got to the point where we had my first daughter. And long story short, we drove from Utah out to South Carolina for the summer.
Okay.
And to start doing security and solar out there. Long story short, solar wasn't good in that area anymore. And so all the plans that we had for the summer were just thrown to the wind. And we had a like 3-month-old baby, and I had a 100-pound dog.
Yeah.
And so we're like, crap, we got to pivot. And so in like fashion, we're going to move. We'll move again. We'll move again. We'll try this area. We'll try this area. We moved 5 times that summer.
Dang. Yeah.
And the stress that I was under was immense, but then the stress that my wife was under was just unbelievable. And again, I had this mentality where I'm like, well, I know what this is for. Like, we're going to be happy. Like, it's just the summer. Once the summer's over, then, we're going to go back home and we'll invest that money and we'll be happy. But it didn't matter. The future promise of reward did not matter anymore. It was, what are we doing right then and there? And why do we have to sacrifice to our happiness at such a massive level now for happiness in the future? It didn't make any sense to my wife anymore or me. And that's why I decided I need to pivot away from, Vivint and I need to start something new. So you had that same kind of realization. I mean, that was day one. Like your wife talked to you. That was day one. I mean, did you process that? Because it sounds like you're in just such a go mode, and all of a sudden it came to a stop so fast. I think of like a car crash. Like it just boom, done.
And I think like her concern wasn't, whether it's valid or not. Like she basically said like, hey, like I think you care more about work and business and real estate and the cars you drive than me and the kids, right? And when she said that, I realized like, okay, well, that's not true by any means. Like everything I'm doing is for you guys, but perception is reality sometimes, meaning like that is not how I felt at all. That's how she felt
based on your actions.
Now, is she valid in thinking that? Sure. So if that's not how I feel, and that's not really why I'm doing this, but that's how she feels, then we got a major disconnect here. Yeah. And so, I had to call her bluff then, where I was like, okay, like we got assets, we have equity, we have cash flow. Like, if that's really how you feel, then I got to make a change. And I really was like, I said, all right, well, then one, I'll stop working. I'll take a break. And actually I'll just freaking sell it. Like I'm not attached to any of this stuff. Sell the cars, I'll sell the toys, I'll sell the real estate. We'll just take off a chunk of cash. And I'm confident in my ability to earn. So to me, I looked at it thinking like, all right, if I sell everything and pull off some cash and we just go sit on the beach in Hawaii, if it takes 2 years, like, and we get to 0 or 3, whatever it is,
Yeah.
or we just ball out and travel the world,
Yeah.
like, I'll do it, man.
Had you ever thought about that previous? Like while you're
No,
working hard and gaining these assets, had you ever thought like, hey, maybe it'd be nice if I like took a year off, or maybe it'd be nice if
no,
I took a break?
no, dude, no, because that didn't exist in the world that we came from, right?
No.
It was like push, push, go, 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 go. It's the sales world. It's the Gary V's. It's the Grant Cardones.
Yeah.
It's just like the go, 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 right?
Mhm.
And it's like, if you're not maximizing, if you're not 10x, and if you're not pushing, like, you're just incapable, or you're not utilizing your time, or you're not, you're disgracing God by the talents and the abilities He gave you if you're not out maximizing them. You know what I mean?
You've used this term before. I think you call this success guilt.
Yeah, for sure.
Tell me a little more about that. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's just kind of like, this need to be like, and a lot of it comes from awareness. It's like, okay, I've been blessed with talent, I've been blessed with ability, but I've also been blessed with this environment. I was blessed to be born in this family, to be raised in this culture, to be presented with these opportunities. And we kind of guilt ourselves, like, man, if I don't go out and if I squander this, like, that's kind of messed up. You know what I mean? And so,
well, you see that your potential. I mean, when you can make the kind of money that you can make by your own merits, and then you have the knowledge that most people don't have on how to invest and not lose your money. Oh, one question I was wanting to ask too: did you ever invest in something that didn't turn out the way you wanted it to, or were you just having success after success?
Not yet. I mean, truth be told, like, there isn't anything you could have bought from 2013 to 2022 that lost money. Like, I've never lost $1 in real estate.
Wow.
Not a single one.
Yeah.
I've done flips. I've done everything. I've wholesale deals. I've done condos, apartments, townhomes, vacation rentals, commercial stuff, single family homes. And now I've kind of paused and stopped, right? Like, I did have some deals under contract in 2022 when rates went to 6%. That wouldn't have cash flowed. I would have been underwater on, and I canceled those deals. But
you didn't lose money on them because you canceled them.
I've never lost,
you had that hindsight. And so I can see why that would be so tough, right? You have this formula for success. By your own merits, you can go out there and kill it, make tons of money. You can invest that money in a good place. And so I guess your wife kind of talking to you, was that the first time where you started thinking about like your personal and family success?
I had never invested in myself, man, honestly. Like, I had never invested $1 in myself as far as like personal growth or education. I was from this mindset of like opportunity costs. I was so wound up in opportunity costs where it's like, okay, if I have money, I need to go invest it and buy and stack assets. And it actually kind of hurt myself because my own belief, like, put me in a position where it was hurting my relationships. Because if I had money or time, I was like, oh, to me, the money or time is better spent building my wealth. And it's like, well, yeah, but then you end up with a bunch of stuff and no friends, and that sucks. Right?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the sales world, we're constantly surrounded by people in our jobs. And a lot of times you'll meet people that are like your friends, like you're really close with them. You'll share hotels with them. You'll do all this kind of stuff. But the vulnerability is not there.
No.
The personal growth is not there. You're growing on the business side, which feels like you're getting really close. But when push comes to shove, you don't know what that guy's going through.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what you're going through. And so I guess what kind of helped you realize, I mean, obviously your wife helped you realize that too, but like what made you realize, hey, crap, like not only do I need to work on this with my family, but I got to work on myself.
Yeah. I just had a feeling, man. And I feel like, like I had made good decisions starting with like that duplex. Hey, someone told me not to do it. Well, I did the due diligence. I did the research, and like, I did something that I didn't know anyone else that did it. There was none of my friends or anyone on my team or anyone I went to high school with that bought that type of product at that age. And I had done other deals. Like, I bought a motel, right? I don't know a single person that has owned a motel. To this day. I don't, right? Bought a 40-acre ranch in Heber City, right? Still very young, right? It was very expensive. So I had made decisions where like I wasn't going to someone asking for counsel because I was doing things no one else had done.
Yeah.
And so even in this situation, I just, I was like, okay, like I'm out making some good money. But I just got this feeling I need to just hit the pause button. And, I didn't really know it at the time, but essentially I took like a year or close to a year and a half off of work.
Wow.
We built a home in St. George. My wife and I, we designed it, built it, furnished it. We spent a lot of time down there.
Yeah.
And, the really hard part was like the summer after was the biggest summer of solar ever.
2021.
Yeah. Finance rates were at 0%.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
My buddies are all out. The guys I used to work with, they're all making, 40, 50 grand a week.
Yeah.
And they're hitting me up like, man, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, I'm here with my kids, man. I'm just like,
was that distracting? Like, was it hard? Like you were physically, I guess you could say you were finally physically there with your kids and your family.
Yeah.
Right? Was it hard to be mentally there and giving them what they needed
at first? I mean, but that's kind of the problem that got me into that situation was like, I had a very hard time turning it off. Right. So like working and being home, like I was there physically a lot, but mentally, like I wasn't. And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of salespeople struggle with this, where like presence is a major issue. There's presence issues because we have cell phones, but there's also presence issues just with our life and distractions and energy. And, like there's nothing I think more not disgraceful, but there's not a bigger, like,
I think it's a good word,
slap in the face to our kids and our wife when it's like, when we're there physically, but we're not there mentally. I think that's almost worse than if we're not there at all.
Not there at all. Well, I mean, so many people, my wife, like eventually she just even told me too, at the end of that summer, she's like, we kind of like, we're doing work and we realized that her love language was presence.
Really?
And so I'm literally depriving her of like the main way that she feels love by constantly reps hitting me up and all these, and, investment real estate agents hitting me up. And I was like, once she told me that, and I just wish so badly I would have like gotten that slap in the face sooner, which I'm sure you can relate to, where I was like, wow, literally all you want or need to be happy is actually just me being present.
Yeah.
Like it like made me so sad because I was like, that should be the easiest thing I could do. I could do all this hard stuff, right? I can go knock doors and make my own money and I can invest and do these crazy things. But the one thing that should be the easiest, I can't give you that.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest slap in the face, I guess, for me, that kind of shook me and realized I needed to
but
change
dude,
things.
sometimes for me, I guess I really didn't know what that looked like.
Oh, okay.
And so, I just didn't, my wife was telling me, hey, I need you to be like this. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like.
You didn't have the tools.
Like you're asking me to like speak, you're speaking to me in a language that I don't know. And so, I kind of have to like do things the hard way sometimes, which I had to like shut off, go 0 dark 30. I had to like get rid of the emotional strings that were tying me, the guys that were working with me. I really kind of had to just like ghost people, man, for 6 months. And it finally got to the point where it was like one day I'm like, you start like checking your phone and slowly the messages decline, the emails decline. And you're like, oh, there was a day where I kind of woke up and I'm like, I don't have to report to anybody. Like I'm free.
You started getting that clarity.
Yeah. And then I'm like, and then once I was free of that, I'm like, I remember it vividly. I'm like at my house, my kids are swimming and I'm like, it was like a whole different lens changed. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm here. Like, and I've never even seen like my kids in this way. Right. Like, everyone says like, you're a product of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And I'm like, wow, well, my daughter is like the most loving, caring person I've ever met. My son is like so determined and he's so smart and he can put a Lego set together and build something I never thought I could do. And my other daughter has insane energy. Yeah. And my wife is so caring and loving and so happy. I'm like, that's who I want to be. I want to be these freaking people, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to just go be around people that are millionaires and have bad lives and, aren't good people. Like, why can't I be the product of these people? I got a whole different value
Wow.
from them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like instead of you thinking, what exactly you're impressing on your kids, you kind of
Yes.
open yourself up a little bit to say, hey, well, how can my kids have an impression on me?
Yeah. It became a two-way street. It's like, I'm not your dad, right? Like, it's not like 90-10.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, like, I'm supposed to learn as much from you as you're supposed to learn
Wow.
as much from me. And I think about that all the time. It's like, my kids are 50-50.
Yeah.
And, I just kind of realized this a couple months ago too. Like, they're having an experience and, well, I'm having an experience too. Well, this is the first time I have been a dad. And I think you see it, like, my parents are a lot different as grandparents as they were as parents.
Oh my
Right?
gosh. Yeah.
And so
It's crazy.
I think about that a lot. Like, my kids, it's their first time being a kid and it's their only time being a kid.
Yeah.
Like, they need to have a say in their own experience. Like, why is it that I have to come and be like, hey, kids, these are the rules. This is what we're doing. These are the trips we're going on. This is how we live our life. Well, that's not fair to them either. Like, this is my first time being a parent. What if I'm doing it all wrong? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just like letting them have a say in their own experience and realizing, like, okay, like, I'm here to learn from them just as much as they're to learn from me.
That opened you up. Absolutely. And so, I mean, you go through this time period where you completely isolate yourself. You have this realization with your kids. You love and spending time with them, but of course, that isn't sustainable forever.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was sustainable forever because of your real estate portfolio. What kind of helped you realize, okay, I'm getting to this place with my kids? I guess, were you doing self work at that time as well? Did you learn how to do?
Yeah.
Some
So when
self-work?
when I had the discussion with my wife, when I realized I needed to pause and slow down, like, yeah, I mean, I think a week or two later is when Jimmy announced the program.
Oh yeah.
And
that was in, I think, like September 21.
Yes. And so basically, when I saw that program, I didn't go into that program for a business.
Right.
Like some people did, I didn't. What I saw was like, okay, this is a bunch of men that are being vulnerable, that are talking about being better husbands and fathers. And like, I need to work on that skill. My wife is begging me to just open up and be vulnerable. And once again, I don't know what that looks like. To me, I come from the provider, like, hey, let me go to work. Let me do my thing. Everything's going to be good.
Did you get that from your dad a little bit?
I think so. I mean, everything's super. I'm just very super optimistic, man, and I just feel like, it's all going to work out. And I also realized too, I had a brother pass away at a young age, which I think kind of, hurt my ability to communicate. My parents had to deal with that, which was amazing that they got through it. But, I didn't really have anyone, to talk to that great when that happened. And so, the program has really changed my life in a lot of ways because it's shown me, like, okay, the three pillars of the program are authenticity, integrity, and vulnerability. And it's like, if you can be those things as a husband, as a father, as a person, as a friend, like, not that nothing else really matters, but those are the pillars, man.
Those are the pillars, man. I mean, it's the foundation of everything. And it sounds kind of easy to say those three things, but it's pretty hard work to do those things constantly as well. Like being vulnerable, having integrity.
Yes.
And being authentic. It takes work, right? I joined We Are the They. I was actually going to be in that first group with you guys. I hit up Jimmy right when it happened. I love everything you're doing. It's amazing. But I was moving to Fort Worth in the fall of 2021 to do solar. And so he didn't know exactly what it was going to be either, right? He knew that it was going to be something super special, but we didn't know if it was going to make sense for me to join, not being in Utah, being physically present. Thankfully, after your guys' group, the second group and the third group, I hit up Jimmy and I was like, dude, please tell me that, like, we can make this work for the fourth group. And he's like, yes, absolutely, do it. I'm like, you'll have to spend a little bit more in flights, but whatever, you'll just get more out of it. That was kind of the idea, and it's facts. But I went in kind of having a good idea of what to expect, but at the same time, when you do your own self work like that, and I feel like so many people entrepreneurs and sales guys, they don't focus on their own self-work.
Yeah, for sure.
I have Corey Clark on another episode, and we've talked a lot about that. He's the sales therapist. And we talk about, man, guys just don't understand the power that you can get from doing self-work. And so when I joined the group, I didn't know how much work I needed.
That's cool. Wow. Yeah.
And then I go in and I'm seeing guys be vulnerable. And I, thankfully, somehow, I guess I was blessed with the ability to be very vulnerable with people. And so I gravitated towards that group so fast. And
that's cool.
Made great connections. And it was kind of tough because from the very beginning, that first Ludus in Moab, I was like, holy cow, I've got way more work than I thought. So did you ever get to that point where, your wife confronted you, you let go of everything? Did you ever get to a point where you're like, wow, I didn't realize how much work I do need to put in to get to where I want to go?
Yeah. I mean, and it was very difficult, but once again, I feel like, vulnerability, it's like, it was so foreign to me, like coming from sports, especially, right? Like guys can take accountability. I'm very good at being accountable. If I mess something up, I'll own it. Right. Yeah. But to see a man like step in front of a group of men and basically say like, I have a problem and I need help. I don't think I had actually ever seen that.
Wow.
Until we did our retreat in Moab.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. Like, there's a man up here in front of other 50 successful men. We're paying good money to be in this program. Yeah. And this guy is standing up here basically admitting a problem he has, which the rest of the world would give major shame to. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Pornography or, cheating on your wife or a drug addiction, And when I saw that, it was so powerful to me because I don't think ever seen that before. Wow. And I think it was another one of those things where I kind of had to like see it to realize like, wow, I haven't experienced this on my football teams. Right. I haven't experienced this in the sales world. This doesn't happen. No one's standing in front of a correlation meeting saying, hey guys, like I got a drug problem. Right? Yeah. It's always just like sell, push, grind. Like we're the beasts, we're the alphas, we're the best.
Suppress everything else, like negative thoughts, suppress it. Rejection, suppress it, suppress everything, just so that way you could be, get the best results.
Yes.
It was never about, it's never about suppress things so you could be the best version of you. No, because that wouldn't work anyways. It's suppress things so that way you can get the most results.
Yes. Yeah.
And as me and you have learned, results is not the most important.
No. And it's very difficult. Like, and once again, I know people that have great results, but they're divorced or they're not, they're traveling around the world and they're making money. But, it's like, I think, and I look at it and say, hey, you know what? Like, there's a different way to do it. Sales is a great opportunity, but it needs to be in harmony with like what you want. And I think some people, especially in the sales world, really, really struggle with getting clear on what they want. What is it that I actually want? What is the life that I actually want to live? And then I think it's very difficult for people to value themselves, value their own livelihood, value their own emotional health, value their own happiness above a dollar. I think people sell themselves short and they sell out. And I thought it was greed for a while, but I think it's just that they don't value their own emotional energy high enough to where they say, okay, yeah, I'm going to go do sales again and go make an extra couple $100,000 this year. And it's like, well, yeah, but then you're not going to be happy. Your kids are going to, bringing your kids across the country, or they're going to be not seeing their dad all summer. Like, is their own emotional experience basically worth less than the money you're going to get? Like, it's basically it's an equation.
Trade-off?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really crazy too, because a lot of times, we have our guys set goals, right? Or I'll set goals. And I'll find myself always gravitating towards the business and the money side first.
Yeah.
Like, well, how about I not do that? How about I go ahead and set goals for where do I want my family to be? Where do I want my relationship with my wife and my kids to be? How much time a week do I want to spend with my family? And then I'll figure out the business goals based off of that.
Yeah, that's great.
So literally just even this past year, 2023 had a great year. Going into this past year, I was like, I thought I had learned my lesson in 2021. And I had learned some good lessons, but I hadn't learned all of them. I had my second son, or my son last year, my second kid. And while my wife was pregnant, I was going super hard because I was like, well, I want to make a lot of money so I could be home when you're pregnant. Well, I made so much money, I put myself in a position where after we had the baby, unfortunately, I had to still commit a lot of time to what I had just put my money into to maintain it. And I'm like, crap, I did take a month and a half off. Well, I say a month and a half, it was more like a month. I took a month off after we had our baby, but I was kind of distracted and I was falling back into that routine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I thought I just went through this. I'm falling back into this routine. Crap. And so I get through the year, and that's when Jimmy opened up his program. So I go into that program. I'm finally realizing, like, okay, we do the goal setting thing first and foremost. Well, at the beginning in January, Jimmy does his goal setting thing.
Yeah.
And I was setting my goals, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to tell myself I'm okay with making less money this year. I'm okay with investing less this year. So that way I can hit goals with my family and my wife.
That's cool.
And that was the first time I'd ever done that. And thankfully through Jimmy's program, I was able to see, okay. And I mean, having a mentor and a coach is so valuable because it finally showed me, okay, if I want to keep repeating what I'm doing, I can keep doing it the same way I am. If I want to change, like for good, I gotta redo this, re-engineer this. And so started with the family. And ironically enough, I've talked to many people that this has happened, and maybe you can relate. But I started with family. I kind of set goals that I wanted to have for that. I've made more money in 2024 than I did at this time last year in 2023.
Wow.
And it's just, and my wife literally a couple of weeks ago said, I don't get it. I'm like, what? She's like, you're home more. Like, you don't have as much obligations and stuff. Why couldn't you do this last year? Like, I had to learn a lesson still.
For sure.
Like, I'm sorry I was at this point last year, but it's because I reverse engineered it. And it's so funny because I put the number one priorities first. I'm more fulfilled. I'm more happy. And somehow the money is just following that. And so I guess now that you went through the Weird Day program, you did all this all this self work, you and your family are working. How's that process been coming out of that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think my wife, I don't even remember what our relationship was like, but I just know it was like, it's not even close to what it is, right?
It's crazy.
We have such an abundant relationship just in the way we communicate, just in the friends we have. And it's just like, so I took the time off close to a year and a half. And then, last year I took a job and I was working a lot more. I did that for probably 10 months or so.
Okay.
And I'm done with that. But I feel like I live such an interesting life right now. I mean, I wake up, I take my kids to school every day. I drop them off at 8:30. I go to the gym with my wife for an hour. So I'm there with her until probably 10. And then we come home and then, we'll do some stuff. We went golfing yesterday.
I saw that. That's so awesome.
Yeah. And then my kids are done. My daughter has dance at 10. Then she goes to preschool at 12. She's out at 2. My other kids are out at 3. They're all playing soccer. I'm coaching 2 of them, and so I'm so embedded in their life right now. Yeah. And I think what happens is you really realize, like, okay, and I get pitched, jobs and opportunities all the time.
I bet.
But now that I'm like fully out, right, and I'm ready to get back in. One, I have the tools and I have the resources, and like last year was great for us. We, I have the structure to learn how to like come home, be present, turn it off, how to have conversations.
Yeah.
But I think you also realize, like, if someone's going to offer me a job and they're going to basically say, hey, I need you here this many times a week or 9 to whatever, you realize, like, okay, well, then that means I'm not going to go to the gym with my wife.
Yeah.
That also means I'm not going to potentially take my daughter to preschool, and I'm probably not going to be able to pick my kids up at 3. Yeah. So if you're going to ask me to forego those activities, like this better be a really, really good opportunity because I really enjoy this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm at a point right now where I'm even like, not that I'm stalling, but like I value those things so much that I'm kind of just like, it's got to be really, really good to get me back in. I don't want to just manually dump all this to then get back into a busy grind.
Well, you know the value of your time now, because it's not just your time. it's the time that you're also taking from your kids that they could
Yes.
be with your
Yeah.
dad. And so and I feel like so many people don't understand this. It's like, yes, like your time is so important and opportunity cost is so important, but it's not just, oh, my time that I could be with my kids and the feelings I get when I'm with my kids and the happiness I feel when I'm with my kids. It's like, listen, you also have to value your time as, hey, my kids don't get as much time with their father because I'm gone doing something else.
Yeah.
And when you weigh that into the equation, the opportunity cost gets way bigger
Yes.
and way more important. And so that's what you're doing right
Yeah.
now.
And I'm even at the point where like we make pretty good residual income,
Yeah.
but also I'm even ready to like sell some of the stuff that I have to
Mm-hmm.
pull off some, like how much time do I need? Like, I don't want to just jump into an opportunity because
Yeah.
things are tight or the economy's slowing down and I
Mm-hmm.
get desperate. Like, I don't want to act. I think anytime you act out of desperation, that's the lowest vibration of energy,
Yeah.
where I want to act out of abundance. I want to act out of like, not of necessity. And so once again, I'm not tied to anything. So, I'd be fine if I need to go and sell 2 or 3 places to
Yeah.
pull off a big chunk of cash. And it's like, well, if that gives me a runway of another 2 years until something great pops up, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. Even though the whole world basically says like, hey, never sell this, live up cash flow. It's like, why is it that you go and we paid the price at our early age for
Yeah.
7 to 10 years to then stack these assets to then one day sell them when you're 60, 70? Like, who says you can't just sell them right now?
Yeah.
Like, why can't I benefit from those moves today?
Yeah.
Why do I have to wait and hold them forever until they're paid off and then the cash flow doubles and then I give them to my kids? Like,
Yeah.
if I had made the sacrifice and paid the price and did the deal, but I need it right now, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking worst case. I'm like, well, I'd be fine selling everything again if
Yeah.
that means that I can go and, have this time. I've really become comfortable with like seasonality. I
Mm.
think people get too finite on things. And I think like seasonality is a beautiful concept because it's like, okay, as a sales guy, I'm a producer.
Mm.
So I can't go and take 2 years off because
Yeah.
then I'm not a producer. I'm lame. I'm not fulfilling. And it's like, well, no, you're looking at things like as an infinite, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at things in a season, it's like, hey, for this one season, I'm going to pause, I'm going to slow down, or for this one season, I'm going to pull back, or for this
Yes.
season, I'm going to grind.
Yeah.
For this season, I'm going to push. I'm not going to be a good husband,
Mm-hmm.
probably. I'm going to be gone 9 to 7, or if any people that do summer sales, like that's
Mm-hmm.
very difficult. You're not
Yeah.
a great son. You're
Yeah.
going to miss out on family reunions. You're not a
Mm-hmm.
great friend. You're moving states, and so like you're not going to be a great friend, a great son, a great whatever. You might not be the greatest dad if you're out grinding all day and then you come home and you're tired.
Yeah.
But once again, that is a season. Does that mean you are a bad dad? No, that means for these 4 months in the season, I'm not going to be a great friend potentially. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be in a whole nother state. I'm going
Yeah.
to miss your wedding, miss your birthday, miss all the stuff. Now, when I come back, then I can be this person.
Yeah.
So seasonality, people live it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even in our life, we just have to accept seasonality,
Yeah.
which is, hey, for this couple years, I might not be a crazy big producer.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm going to get back into it, and I'm well equipped with the tools to then go and work and grind and produce.
And you're going to be operating at such a higher frequency
I think
because you
so.
took that time off. It's the idea of, hey, you don't need to run, an ultra marathon 100 miles and run the entire time. No, you take breaks, you walk for parts of it, you gather yourself so that way you can go even further, even stronger. And I mean, it comes down to the point where that you're trying to make is like, would your kids rather have a super valuable $2 million asset after you're dead, or would they rather have have your time now?
Sure.
And that's the whole idea. It's like, hey, I'm willing to go through a season where I'm learning things, I'm putting time into myself, I have these kids. You're responsible with your money, so that way you could do that. And then yeah, you might go through another season in the future where you're a little bit imbalanced towards work again, but you'll set things up properly. You'll make sure that the communication is there with your kids and your wife, and it'll be from a whole different mindset because they know your intentions, you know your intentions, you know why you're doing it.
For sure.
And I think that's a beautiful thing because seasons don't have to be a couple months, they could be a couple years.
Yeah.
And I think that when entrepreneurs and sales guys realize, hey, there's more than just a summer season and an off season. There's so much that you can accomplish through different seasons of your life, as long as you do the responsible thing beforehand. You set it up, you have great communication with the people you love, and you move forward with caution, I suppose.
Yeah. And dude, women, it's harder on women too, I think, because women, like when you get pregnant, your body shuts down, your life shuts down, you have a child, right? And I think women, they really struggle with like the self-worth, and they deliver a child, and then they're home, and then their body changes, and then their hormones are changing, and then maybe they suffer from some postpartum, or they get some depression, or they're home a lot.
Yeah.
And they get on the internet and they see women that are fit and in shape and producing and running a business or working. And it's so hard to sit there and look at a phone and say like, okay, this girl's really beautiful, and she's working, and she's making money, and she's contributing to her family. I have been stuck at home for 2 months dealing with a child, and my life consists of changing diapers and making bottles. Like I am a worthless POS, right? That creeps in so often. And it's like, hey, this is what you're doing right now, but this is not who you are. Like, yes, these people are doing that, but like,
I mean, count your blessings that we can even have seasons, and we could do seasons on purpose. Like me and you can choose to go through a season of hard work, or a season of like taking time off. Whereas, like you said, like mothers and people,
it's very difficult.
Yeah, very difficult. They don't always get to choose their seasons. No. It's something that's pushed on them. And like my wife has gone through saying, we make really big kids. And so for her, the season of, post birth has been longer than she thought. But thankfully, because of the self-work that she's doing with Melissa and the Queens group and so forth, she's coming to terms with that. She's like, hey, this season's a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But we have better communication around it, and we're working towards it together. And we have an eye on, we know where each other are at. And I feel like as long as you have that communication, you know where each other are at, you really can't go wrong.
Yes, for sure.
Well, man, I just feel like there's so much that guys can learn from stories like this, and from your example, not only on the money side, of course, but on like the personal development side and the family side.
Thank you. Yeah.
I don't know how many good examples there are out there of guys who are entrepreneurs, or who do sales, and who are good fathers, and who invest in money. It's pretty rare to find someone who's well-rounded in that aspect. And me and you had to sacrifice quite a bit to get where we are, but we're here now, and that's the biggest reason why I want to have you on. I'm like, let's give an example to guys of what they can do and how they can do it the right way.
I appreciate it. And there's a lot of good people. I think there's so many good people in the industry and in the sales specifically. And I think they just need a little bit of guidance. And I think they have such good intentions, man, so good. And I think like, they're just, and I, if anything, I just want to say like follow your heart, trust your gut, and, take a moment just to sit in silence and just reflect of like, okay, what do I want? What do I have? And I think guys that are like really doggy and really like, can pay the price and grind. It's like, well, when I took that time off, like I missed out on some money, which is cool. It's not cool to the rest of the world, but in everyone else's eyes, it's like, dude, you really missed out. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well then if I really missed out, that's real money. So did I lose it? No, because I could have captured it. So in my mind, everything I did is an investment.
Yeah.
I didn't lose out on a summer of a half of potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Because I knew I could have made that. So in theory, I actually just invested that. I rolled the dice and I made an investment to do this.
Yeah. You knew what the opportunity cost was, 100%. And it made it that much more valuable.
It's just an investment. And I think everything's an investment. If the way you look at it, it's an investment of your time. It's an investment of your energy. It's an investment of your emotional energy. And it's an investment of your money. Yeah. And so guys that are making money and selling, they're doing investing all the time. They're just investing a lot of dollars, and they're investing time and energy in their company, and, turning it back on yourself with a little bit of, self-improvement, personal development, family, dude, that is the best investment you could ever do.
That is. I agree wholeheartedly. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate it, brother.
Man, I really appreciate it. And we'll be launching this podcast very soon, so I'm excited for guys to hear the story.
Thank you.
Thanks.